Every professional has a unique magic waiting to be discovered. At Finding the Unicorn in You helps you unlock your hidden potential. Thank you for tuning in. Now switching it over to our host.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Finding the Unicorn in You. Today, I have a very special guest who is an exercise physiologist with multiple certification in health coaching, nutrition, and lifestyle management. She is the author of 3 books, the latest one being End of Try Again. And has an accompanying workbook. She has worked in health and fitness for over 30 years and has an extensive experience with helping people reach their health and fitness goals. So without further ado, welcome Kristen Carter. Hi, Kristen.
Hi, thanks. Great to be here.
I'm excited for you to be on here. Why fitness? Tell us a little bit, why did you decide to go into the health and wellness field?
For me, it was a no-brainer. When I was a kid, I was the one who was always hanging off the jungle gym and things like that. But I did have a desk job for 10 years in administration and in my 20s. And I realized it wasn't for me. I could do it. I wasn't then. I stopped and had children and did all that stuff for a while and continued with my own fitness journey, if you will. Then when I was early 40s, I decided to go to graduate school and get this exercise physiology degree. But that was, after I became a personal trainer just to get my feet wet to see if it was for me. And because I was already old for a lot of young Turks in the field there. And I thought, okay, but I did the personal training and realized I was just fine with it. But it wasn't enough for me. So I went back to graduate school and did that, and then have moved on from there with multiple certifications, because part of the degree I got is about health behavior and public health and those arenas. And I've always been listening to people with their struggles in health and fitness. So in the end of the day, I worked with folks for 30 years, so you can do the math there, in various capacities and workshops and working with weight loss groups and so on. And when I decided to retire from being on the gym floor, as it were, I realized I wasn't done. So I took all the experience that I've had and all the listening that I've done and wrote these books, because there are some things that just irk me about how fitness and lifestyle change is presented or not presented. So I thought, I'm going to put in my own 2 cents. And then I moved on from there to workbook, which really is a self-coaching tool, actually.
That's amazing. So you went through your own fitness journey and you're like, I want to not just keep this knowledge for myself. I want to share it with others.
That's right. Yeah. Plus, I'm just a total biology geek. So this gave me an excuse to learn about our bodies more and all that.
I love that. And it's amazing that you're doing this, because right now, like, everybody is trying to get fit. I think that's something that is not ever going to go away. Like, we have people going through body dysmorphia. We have people who have struggled with eating, nutrition, and not knowing where to start. Sometimes it can be very overwhelming when you are trying to create a change in your life and you're not an expert in it. And there's so much information out there that sometimes it's counterintuitive. And you're like, I don't know what to listen to. Do I go on the keto diet? Do I go on this like paleo diet? Do I go on this lemonade fad thing that's going on? So where do I start? What do I do? So what methodology do you usually take, and like, how do you help your clients?
The first thing I do is tell people that it's you and your body. Your body is not going anywhere. You do not need to jump out of the gate in a rush, because you're going to stop. That will stop you in your tracks most of the time. You'll find that you don't like it. You'll also find that you haven't learned anything along the way, except that you've done that program, and that's nice. But have you learned any skills that are going to carry you through in the future and forever, really? And I also, a lot of times they recommend, even in business as well, start with your why.
Yeah.
Right? Start with your why. What are your values? What do you value about yourself? how do you want that to play out for yourself? And what are the things in the future that you want to be able to do?
Mm-hmm.
That's good. However, that doesn't cover the day-to-day. You can't just pull out your why magically and have it work for you while you're slogging through the decisions that you make every day. I try to impress people with those concepts so that they, right off the bat, don't just jump into a diet or a program. It's more of a, I hate the word journey in some ways, but it is a long-term, you're looking for long-term sustainable change for you, for each person. And it's different for each person.
Yeah, and it is really a lifestyle change. You have to be able to commit to changing essentially everything that you know. You have to be able to be willing to let go of some of these beliefs that you have that has failed you in a way because they have made you the person you are today. So you have to be able to restructure and reframe some of these I say nuggets of knowledge that have helped us survive thus far that no longer serves us.
That's true. Yeah, exactly right. And in terms of eating, good grief, it's a real load of stuff that comes in there. You've got things that you like to eat, that you taste good, that give you pleasure. You also have the way you were brought up, your
Yeah.
culture. I did a podcast around the holidays, which was like, some people literally, they have to have Thanksgiving at their house, and they have to have the sweet potatoes with the marshmallows on, or the people, the family's going to rebel.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of, can be stress inducing to show up and go, we're not going to have that this year. So there is, I wrote a blog about the positive power of no. But it isn't just about saying no, it's about creating the change, creating some pleasure in the change, because otherwise you just feel like you're giving up something, right? You're giving up your favorite foods, your favorite social ways to interact. And you need to replace those with things that are going to be somewhat, at least somewhat
Yeah.
pleasurable to you to start with.
I agree. And I do want to dive deeper in the concept of excuse me. You said that sometimes the way we grew up is what holds us back too. And
Mhm.
coincidentally, I was literally talking to my friend yesterday, and she was telling me how her doctor let her know that sometimes first generation like families like immigrants or just like in general families that are lower income tend to train their children at a young age that you have to eat everything that you have on your plate because you never know when you're going to have a full meal like this again.
Mhm.
And like I said, this type of mentality served us in the past because maybe the next day you didn't have enough money to purchase a full meal and you had half a meal, or the next day you
Mhm.
got to eat certain types of food. But now that you're an adult and you have more of a stability, you don't have to eat everything that's on your plate. You can save it for later. You can portion it out. You can have smaller portions. But because we have that mentality and what we grew up that you have to eat everything that's in front of you, regardless of the portion size,
Mhm.
we tend to gain weight because it's unnecessary food that our body no longer needs.
Oh, right. And I think a lot of it starts with awareness. I like to ask a lot of questions, and some people just haven't thought about that aspect of it at all, or why they make certain choices around food and what their goals are. Like, I like to ask, so when you eat, is it for nutrition? Is it for pleasure? Is it for fun? What's your main thought about that? And I also like to ask people, drilling down a little more even, is what do you think is your worst health habit? And what do you think is your best health habit? So it's a process of asking people, creating some awareness and some thoughts that perhaps they haven't had before around that, instead of just taking things for granted. That's how you do it, right? But those things may not be serving you anymore. They aren't in line with the goals that you have for yourself and how you want to see yourself 5 years from now. So yeah, That's how I do. I ask a lot of questions. And I guess my motto would be assess, don't guess. One of my other pet peeves is just seeing lists of advice that doesn't address people's emotions, how they feel about it, how
Mm-hmm.
what history they've had with that particular thing. Have they thought about it before? Have they tried it before? Was it awful? Any of those things. You have to bring in the emotional component
Yeah.
with change.
And I like your methodology and the way that you approach things because it's more, I feel as a coach myself, that it's more sustainable. It creates long-term change because you're not only educating them, but challenging the thoughts that are holding them back and allowing them to do that self-discovery throughout the process. Because if you just go to the gym and go do a personal trainer, they're working on your physical body and you're gonna feel sore, you're gonna work on it. But if you have habits that are not really being motivated by your why, like you said, it's easy for us to give up and to start over and not put as much effort into it as we want. But like the way that you're doing things, it really makes it to be a long lasting change.
Exactly, right. At this point, I like to bring up another pet peeve of mine. The way media shows us what we're supposed to be doing, it strikes me all the time. You have happy, smiling people. They've taken the drug, they've gone through the program, they've done this or that, and here's their results, and they're all happy and smiling. There is no mention of how hard it is, or what it's like day to day, or how it feels to change, or what changes do you think you can handle? Are you ready to make some changes? Are you ready? Are you curious about what it's going to take? And are you curious about learning some new things about nutrition, for instance, and about how your body works?
Yeah.
So that, and I understand some of these programs do offer coaching. In all fairness, they do. But the grabber is always, "Ah, we're just going to be dancing through the tulips there." And it just isn't ever like that,
No,
ever.
there's a lot of nasty behind it. I call it nasty, but like a not so fun side of it that people don't portray. And they feel that it's not going to be a struggle, but all good things in life, we have to struggle a little bit to get to it. It's a little bit of resistance because it's change. So it's not always going to be frolicking around in the flowers. Sometimes you're going to be going through the mud and you'll get stuck for a couple days. And it's a journey. Definitely, there's going to be trials and tribulations, but you have to have strong mental willpower to get through it.
Yeah, and you have to be prepared to fail. Failure is fine. Everybody does it. It's
Mm-hmm.
gonna happen. So the point is, what are you gonna do about it? And how are you gonna handle it? And you can sit back and go, what have I learned from this?
Mm-hmm.
Not, oh my gosh, I forget it, I'm doomed. I'll never try this again. And in terms of, say, going on a diet or picking keto or whatever, after 6 weeks or whatever, what are your plans? What are you going to do? Maybe you've succeeded at that, but that isn't going to keep you going at all. It's a matter of you are always there with yourself.
No, definitely. And switching gears a little bit, if somebody wants to get into the fitness career in the wellness career, like what is one thing that you would recommend that they do to start?
I would say start out by getting a certification as a personal trainer or a health coach. There are so many different kinds of certifications out, so pick one that piques your interest
Mm-hmm.
and go for it. They aren't usually that complicated or hard, but they do give you a good basis for moving forward with that. And then you're all set to give it a try in the real world and see how you like it. And then you can move on from there.
I like that. And it's just like getting the basic education so you have the groundwork to be able to do to at least get kickstarted into the career.
Exactly. Yeah,
And
put your toe in the water, see what happens.
no, yeah, definitely. And as you were saying before, sometimes when you're in the thick of this, of like your journey, you can sometimes get a lot of stress. There can be a lot of things that bring you down. that may discourage you from wanting to pursue your goals. So for you personally, in your business and in your career, what do you do to ground yourself to help you keep going and keep doing what you're doing and helping people?
Okay. Sometimes I have to get out on my own way.
Yeah.
So sometimes I get too focused on, I'm writing this, I write for Psychology Today. So I get really focused, I get in the weeds and I do this and I'm worried about how people are going to see it.
Mm,
And then I step back and I go, look, what am I really doing here? I want to help people. I want to put a message out there that maybe they haven't thought of before, or maybe it's going to help them a little bit. Even if I help them a little bit, I feel happy about that. So that's really, then I remind myself that's what sustains me. In terms of physical, I obviously know a lot about what to do for myself. But for instance, right before this podcast, I did 25 minutes of a cardio and then had a stretch. And what I realized is you don't have to do 25 minutes. Like even give yourself permission to do 5 minutes.
yeah.
And then a couple of key stretches that just makes you go, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, puts you in a different place. And those may be different for everybody, depending on the person, but you can learn a few of those. If you, like, say, for instance, you see a trainer in the gym, that person may be able to help you find some 3 stretches that you can stick into your day.
Yeah.
And the other thing about that is to give yourself permission to
Mm,
take care of yourself. I see a lot of people who just don't.
yeah.
And including the story I read about you, which firsthand leads to disaster if you don't. But many people are just driven and
Hmm.
feel that's going to get them somewhere. But really, if you don't take care of number one, you've had it. And not to go on here, but I will, which is sometimes you're going to have to negotiate with your family, for instance.
Yeah.
You say, okay, look, we're not going to have dinner at 6:30 anymore. We're going to have it at 6:45 because I want to do XYZ for myself.
Mm,
And you have to trust that eventually they will get used to it. My family did.
yeah. You have to set those boundaries and you have to set that expectation of what you want. And you, in a sense, it's not selfish, but you do have to put yourself forward first. Because
Yeah.
if you're not taking care of yourself, no one else is. Nobody else is going to be taking care of
No, nobody else is
and
going to.
and your want and need to make the other people around you, your loved ones, happy is admirable, but you're not going to be able to make yourself happy unless you start putting yourself first and you start doing those self-care. External happiness only lasts so long until they're not available for you or you're left alone because they put themselves first, and then you're now alone and you're like, what now? And instead of taking the victim mentality shift of it, it's more, okay, what can I do now for myself? And the same way that the effort that you put to please other people and to make their lives easier, you also have to do for your own life.
That's right. That's exactly right. And it's a good role model for people.
Mhm. Yeah.
Really, it's a reminder to folks that, oh, yeah, I can do that. Sometimes I encourage people to say you work a desk job, you're in the office, maybe not so much anymore back in the day. Stand up and do some of your stretches or do something and not worry about what people are thinking about you. Right. And the other thing is maybe they'll start doing it too. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know.
It encourages people. I remember a few years ago, pre-pandemic, when I used to be in an office, my friends and I were really, my colleagues and I were really into fitness, and we were like, you know what, let's be accountable. It started off with me and a coworker walking around the building twice a day for 15 minutes during our breaks and just putting in some laps. And that inspired other people, which ended up starting with 5 of us doing it every day to 15, to basically the whole office shut down for 15 minutes. And we were just walking together, all like 100 of us, just when you see 100 people walking around the building and you're like, people were like, what's going on? Is there a parade or something? But it was something that was so motivating because so many people were like, it's not that hard. It's easy for us to just put 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes of their day just to go around and walk. And
Mhm.
some people, it actually, you can see the change because they've never had that level of physicality in their life. So that little bit of change allowed them to start losing weight, which then motivated other people to want to do it. And it was just like this whole big thing. So you just never know what ripple effect you're going to cause just because you say, I'm going to do this.
Exactly. Yeah, how about that? That's a great story. I love that.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I love what you're talking about because it does make like big impacts on other people's lives just by sometimes what people would consider being selfish, but you really are putting yourself first.
Mhm. Yeah, because as you say, nobody's going to do it for you.
Exactly, exactly. As we are wrapping up the episode, I want to ask the last question, which is the premise of the podcast. So, what is the unicorn lesson that you have learned that has impacted you the most and made you the person that you are today?
Hmm. Okay. Wow. Okay, that could be deep. I would say learning, being an observer. I observed people when I was a kid. I was a really quiet kid. I was an introvert, still am. And I grew up in a pretty terrible situation. But my observations of people were like, oh, wait a minute, not everybody's like this. Not everybody does it this way. There are multiple ways to do things and multiple ways to think about things.
Mm,
And so I think I've carried that forward in my work to help people like, wait a minute, I don't have to think about it this way. Look around. Other people are doing this and doing that, and they're fine. Some of them are fine, some of them aren't. But yeah, I would say I leaned into that as a superpower, if you will.
mhm,
Um, and I continue to do that because I like to find out what's going on with people and what's going to help them the most.
mhm.
Yeah.
I like that. I think that's a really good way for us to wrap everything up, and it's a really good piece of nugget for listeners to be able to take that perspective and apply it into their own lives and hopefully start making their life a little bit better each day. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you or hire you or join or just buy one of your books, how can they do so?
I have a website called designforfitness.com, all one word. On there is all kinds of information about the books, my coaching programs, my philosophy again. I also have tons of blogs on there, information, and some cheat sheets. And my books are available on Amazon. Easy. I recommend getting both the starter book and the workbook that goes with it. So yeah, it's all on there, plus a whole lot more.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kristen. For listeners, don't feel that you have to jot all of this down right away. If you scroll down on the show notes, you'll be able to find all the links in there, as well as if you go to my website at rainbowcareercoaching.com, click the Unicorn Wall of Fame, and you'll see Kristen on there with a peer picture and a small blog about herself, all the links, and a summary of this episode. Last but not least, don't forget to subscribe and share this content so it goes out to more people and more people can learn these lessons. And episodes come out every Friday at 7 a.m. Thank you so much, Kristen. Any last words before we wrap up today?
No, I just really appreciate being on, and I really loved your website, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Until next time, everyone, have a wonderful day.